Well, everybody have a seat. We will begin. Thank you for coming today, everybody that's here, everybody that's on Zoom. This is a great program and very timely because, as you know, we have a primary on July 30th. Everybody that you see up here is in a somewhat contested race. These are the candidates that Democrats of the Red Rocks has endorsed. And so we're happy to present this program today so that you can meet them and see why we endorse them and ask questions if you like. They're all here. They're all very amenable to questions and discussions. So that would be great. My name is Ellen Ferreira. I am the president of Democrats of the Red Rocks. Certainly say that as by way of introduction, not to get an award. I'm not special.
I know you.
When DORR rethinks its endorsements, we might have to take certain things into consideration. Okay, let me just mention that there is an election, a primary. The main election, the big election, November 5th. We have 137 days, which might seem like a lot, but it's not. It's going to require us to jump into action more than we have ever, I think. And I'm not going to repeat how important this election is because we all know how important this election is. Democrats of the Red Rocks is in full gear already. We have teams out doing literature drops for the candidates for the Biden-Harris administration, listing their accomplishments. We have a postcard campaign, which some of you that are here today may have gotten a packet or agreed to take a packet of 10 or 25 postcards to write to people who are not yet registered. But if they register, they will likely register as Democrats. We have these lists through our partner called Field Team 6. And this technique of getting people registered by postcarding them so they have it in their hand with a QR code and a website has been proven to be very, very effective. So anybody who would like to write postcards, if your handwriting is pretty legible and you can print rather than write cursive, then please see Toby in the back of the room and she will give you a packet of postcards. We have prepared slate cards urging people, just publicizing who the DORR-Endorsed candidates are. And those slate cards will be mailed throughout Coconino and Yavapai districts within Sedona. And we will also be publishing something in the Red Rock News about that. So we've been pretty busy. This is not the time to sit back. This is not the time to sit back. We do not want to be rethinking what we did on November 6th or November 7th, if the results are not what we're looking for. So we have to become activated now. Okay, I would like to introduce our panel, and they will go in a random order. We're going to start with Ammon Barker. Ammon is running for the position of county attorney in Coconino County. Several months ago, Ammon's Democratic opponent, Larry Perlmutter, was here and spoke to us. And so now we're presenting Ammon. He will give you his background. I'm going to hope that everybody here would like to give their own introduction and describe themselves a little bit. So I'll let that just happen. So Ammon will speak first. Then for continuity, I would like to have the mayor, Scott Jablow, will speak. Then Vice Mayor Holli Ploog, City Councilor Kathy Kinsella. Okay, Kathy and Holly, you'll get as a team. Derek Pfaff, who many of you know, probably everybody in this room, but if you don't, we'll hear from Derek. And then we have Nikki Check, who is running for Supervisor District 3 in Yavapai County. So without further ado, and I thank everybody for coming early today because we don't normally have this many people on our panel, but we wanted to give everybody a good chance to be heard and then a good chance for discussion afterward. So let me turn this over to Ammon. If you want to just stand up, as you can see, the camera is right there. So there are not as many people on Zoom as there are here in the room, is my guess. But welcome.
Thank you.
We're thrilled to have you here.
Thrilled to be here. Thank you. I was driving up from Phoenix this morning because I had a conference, prosecutor conference, and every time I drive in Sedona, I'm just amazed by all the views. I mean, everywhere you look, it's just fantastic. So it's good to be here. Ammon Barker, I'm the Chief Deputy County Attorney at the Coconino County Attorney's Office, and running as you heard, Coconino County Attorney. That's one of my titles. I always want to mention, though, that I'm a husband and father. My wife, Jessica, owns a dance studio in Flagstaff, a small business up there. We have 3 daughters, and their ages 16, 12, and 8. And my wife earlier last week sent me a video of my 16-year-old who got her license on Tuesday, backing out of the driveway to go hang out with friends, and I was traumatized. Because, you know, she's now growing up, and also we know what happens, you know, people are irresponsible out there. So it scared me a little bit. So I'm running for county attorney. I've been in the office for 14 years. I've been a prosecutor for 14 years. And most of my time at the prosecuting office has been prosecuting serious felony offenses. So that was my caseload, if you will. I've tried 1,000 homicide cases. I've tried over 40 serious felony cases involving sexual offenses, molestation, domestic violence. So I've seen kind of the hardest parts of our communities and what people can do to each other. And so that's certainly impacted my perspective on what prosecutors should be doing. But I want to talk about 4 things I believe in, and I'll start with the letter P, so we can all remember. I believe in the promise of public safety. As a prosecutor, I've seen how we can stop the cycle of violence in homes. We can certainly protect people who are vulnerable in our communities. And that has been an important part of my practice. Later this day, in fact, this afternoon, I'll be speaking with the Law and Crime Network about a case I tried a couple of years ago. It made some national headlines. It was a Mennonite murder case. This young lady who was abducted from New Mexico, taken north of Flagstaff, and she was shot in the back of the head. And I tried that case, and that defendant is in prison for the rest of his life. And certainly it's a tragedy. The outcome, however, was the right outcome. We wanted to make sure that person never got out of prison to do that again, to hurt anybody else. So I believe in public safety. I think our engagement with law enforcement is very important. We all want safe communities. Now, how we get there is really the subject of debate that we see nationally and locally. So the second thing is I believe in prevention. Prevention, we know, and I've seen it in our system, most of the people in our system are there not because they want to hurt people, but because they're addicted to drugs, they have alcohol dependence, they're mentally ill, a combination of those things. And that is really the majority of the cases that we see. So even though I've seen and the harsh reality of some of these cases, most of the folks just really need some help. And so I've been happy to be part of expanding our treatment courts in Coconino County. We have a recovery court program, which helps those who are addicted to substances or alcohol. That's really the last stop before prison. It's an opportunity to connect them to treatment so that we can resolve the issues that are causing them to keep returning to the criminal justice system. We have a mental health court in Coconino County that helps people with mental illness, similar to the recovery court program, the last stop before prison. I was instrumental in developing the PAGE drug court. So PAGE has a program up there as well that helps people with drug addiction and alcohol dependence. And I think the thing I'm most proud of is last year, a little over a year ago, I created the Pathway Diversion Program, which is a program that operates outside the jail as people are booked on low-level felony offenses like drug possession or some of these low-level property offenses. they have an opportunity to sign a contract with my office. If they stay law abiding for 6 months and they engage with treatment for that period of time, we will not charge the case. So you may be in jail for possession of heroin, for instance, serious drug. But if you engage with treatment, if you're law abiding, we won't even charge the case. And that not only saves money and the resources in the criminal justice system, but it saves people's lives. We know that putting people in jail and prison for drug addiction isn't going to solve the problem. They're going to come right back into our communities. They're going to keep doing the same thing over and over again. So we need to really resolve the issue with treatment. Third thing, I believe in protection. And I've said this publicly many times, but as a prosecutor in my office, we will not prosecute women or medical providers for providing reproductive services, including abortion. Period. That's not negotiable. That's just how we're going to operate. So I've said that publicly for over a year now. You can see it on my website as well. If you're interested in my stance on that. And the last thing I'll say is I believe in problem solving, and I know that problem solving is collaborative. And for that reason, I'm very grateful to have the endorsement of all the current Coconino County supervisors. I have the endorsement of Mayor Becky Daggett Flagstaff, the endorsement of May Peshlikai, Representative May Peshlikai. Jonathan Nez has endorsed me as well, hopefully our next congressman. So that is important because I can't do this work alone. Nobody can. We have to work with our criminal justice partners, with our courts, with our defense bar, with our probation department, with our law enforcement. So I feel like I have that support in our community to get some of these projects done and expand on these promises that I've talked about, promises of prevention and diversion in our community. So I thank you for your time, and of course, willing to answer any questions. Thank you.
Why don't we hold questions to the end? We'll hear from everybody first, and then we can answer.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's nice to see you all here today. I'm Scott Jablow, your current mayor, and I'm running for re-election into what would be my second term. Instead of going on about myself and who I am, most of you already know me, you're already friends of mine. I want to share with you in the past 2 years what this current council and what I've supported accomplishments have happened, which I think are very unique. So I've been able to, especially with the vice mayor, collaborate with the Republican senator and representative in the state that represent our district, which is something that hadn't been done for close to 10 years. We built up a relationship with Senator Bennett and Representative Bliss, where they actually worked to help our community with off-highway vehicles and short-term rentals. This is something, the relationship that we haven't had, and we built that relationship. And the current council, the vice mayor, Mr. Kinsella, and hopefully Derek will all continue to do. We've done this, 3 of us, we've done this in the past 2 years that I'm the mayor and 4 years that we've been together. So an ADOT partnership. With the change of the governor, we now have a new director of ADOT who has assigned us, Sedona, and other mayors our own liaison who we work with and now can collaborate with and communicate with. We didn't have that before. So long-term planning, the council agreed we begin to look at a long range of bypass options, whatever that may be, through NACOG, the Northern Arizona Council of Governments, because the state has no money for new roads. It is actually bigger than that. So this council just recently voted to begin the process of looking for ways to have bypass roads, because it's going to get worse or more volume coming into our city. We need to plan ahead. It could take 10 years. If we don't start, we'll never get anything accomplished. Off-highway vehicles, for those that don't know, I take a lead position on that. I feel that off-highway vehicles are a hazard to paved roads, public roads. They were designed to be on dirt roads in the forest. And there are many safety features I'm not going to go into now that they don't have, that your cars have. If you were to hit one of these and you hit them in their rear, you would do a lot of damage because they don't have the crumple zones. They don't have anti-lock brakes. Their tires aren't really, they're not designed to be on public roads, and says on every tire. There's no way of getting around the tires. It is what it is. So for those that don't know, and I discussed it with a couple of you here a little while ago, we have a new citywide evacuation and return plan. Something that's a state of the art, first of its kind, in the Culture Park West End Gateway. We're going to be doing a community outreach very similar to our community plan. We're going to do outreach. It may take a year, year and a half, whatever it takes. We want to hear community involvement. We want residents to say what they want. We believe as a council, we want to see a portion of that for multi-use housing, senior housing, assisted living, workforce housing, all together in one section of the park, and to have other amenities that the community will weigh in on. Some people want to have the event venue stay and be rebuilt. I want to hear what everybody has to say, not just one group. Tourism management, now I think tourism is in-house. I think our city staff has done a fantastic job. In just 1 year, they've made great strides in accomplishment on changing the message, because we want to have that message be what community-wise, what's best for the community, not what's best for just one group, whether it's businesses or residents. So we also have hired a new tourism manager that will begin this coming July. And then that person will have their own staff. Right now, it's a dual role for our current staff. They're not really professionals in it, but they certainly have excelled in what they've been doing for the past year. So we've done that. Also don't know that the chamber, as some say, divorced from us or broke, decided to separate from us. And it's a good thing for the community. So now we have to take the bull by the horns and move forward. SIM project, we're halfway through the Sedona in motion with SIM project. You're seeing a lot of construction work at the Y. You're seeing the underpass, which should be done the end of July, and we talk. It'll be a walkway to take people underneath and to come around one way or the other. You're also seeing Forest Road extension that should be done the end of next year. It's going to help alleviate a lot of traffic at the Y. You're also going to see a new traffic circle that will be at the bottom of the Forest Road extension, where it comes down and touches 89A, and then the roundabout where the food stops will be eliminated. Because having those two traffic circles is not a person in this room, I'm sure, that doesn't know that it's just crazy having two roundabouts so close together. So that's going to be eliminated. Plastic grounds enhancements, pickleball court. Vice Mayor and I were just there the other day. We did a shovel in the ground to start the process to build brand new 8 pickleball courts. So that's really exciting. We finished a bocce ball court just about a month or two ago. The ranger station build out. If you haven't been down by the ranger station, it's fabulous. It's fabulous. If we haven't done a ribbon cutting there because we're waiting for the children's equipment. And that's I think we're about 99% completed. But you can go there and hang out if you want to. It's really lovely. And by the way, where we're building the pickleball courts, all the grass, because that was one of the baseball fields that weren't being used. So the grass from the baseball field is being used at the ranger station park. They're replanting it. And then there's another section of that grass may be used for about the hour. I don't know. Hasn't been decided yet. It's all being repurposed and not being just ripped up and thrown away. So these are just in 2 years. We're starting to see all these things happen. I'm asking for your vote. Right? It's coming July. And if you have any questions, my number's out there. If you want to, you'll see me or go to my website, reelectscottfair.com. And I appreciate you all being here this morning. Thank you.
We're doing this together. You can pause, right? Because we were so no, because 4 years ago when we ran, the first time the candidates did that, we teamed up and we ran together. And we've had a fantastic working relationship in those 4 years and a wonderfully growing friendship. And we said, let's do it again. If you do it, I'll do it. So we're doing it again. We're running together as a team, which does not mean that Holli and I always think alike or vote alike. We have diverged from each other, but that's good. That's the sign of respectful colleagues who can discuss things. This is the way, it's an example of how men on other levels really should work. But we are so happy to be working with this current council and hopefully adding Derek into the mix, because this is a council that doesn't kick the can down the road. been
except
actually.
when we do.
That's a game. Oh, yeah, we've gotten, I mean, you just heard Scott run through the list of accomplishments that have happened over the last several years, and it's amazing. When Holly and I first got on, one of the first things we pushed for was that evacuation and emergency planning to happen because it hadn't been updated and things kept being put on the back burner. The development of Ranger Park kept being put into an out year. We were able to push that pickleball. We were able to push that by having voices join the council together to help sort of change the culture of council to say, well, it's not just one person speaking into a void, it's two people have this idea, and talk to a third. And we're really able to get a collegial working relationship and things done on the council. So that's the history I want to talk to.
I think what's important is that the evacuation plan that came out of residents from Uptown who were very concerned about their ability to leave Uptown in an emergency. These residents in particular live at the height of Uptown. And Kathy and I went up there to meet with them and we said to each other, oh my God, people are toast. Seriously, they won't be able to get out of here. We have to really help them because the streets are really narrow. They were built in the 50s. They have issues with water pressure, a lot of things that our community really wasn't taking a look at. And the responsibility for evacuation and emergency is with the county. And so a lot of times the city would say it's not, we can't do anything about it because we don't have the authority. Well, that is, yes, that's the case, but it's all about relationships, as the mayor said, and bringing stakeholders together. So we live in two counties that bring us a little bit of a different flavor, but they work very collegially. So we spent about a year, right? Mm-hmm. We met with the Uptown residents on a regular basis. We promoted their cause internally. We got the police chief and fire chief together. These things can happen and they can be done if you are relentless about accomplishing them. And a couple of the residents were relentless and they did their part, and we did our part. This has happened on several occasions, happened with the pool. There was a group of residents who were using the pool. The pool is owned by the school district, and it's at West Sedona School. And we manage it, but that is a little bit of a sticky wicket sometimes. And some of the relationships weren't great. We had to resolve those. We had to repair them. We had to bring the users of the pool together between the swim teams and regular users. Lack of lifeguards during the pandemic in particular.
Swim lessons.
Right. Bring that all together with a head of Parks and Rec who changed about twice, I think, during that period of time and resolve it. So now we don't see those complaints anymore. Things have improved dramatically. And we will be looking in the future about, there's a lot of maintenance issues about how we can work more aligned with the school district. They have a new superintendent who's friendlier, not friendlier than, but more focused on some of these other things. Not friendlier. Denny was a great superintendent, not to disparage him. But I think we have a different approach because a lot of the initiatives we've been involved with have been very complementary with the residents.
That's the theme, I think, that you'll find over the last 4 years. We have on the back chair is a list of what we call record and goals. They're sort of mixed in together. But the theme that runs through all of this is the willingness that we have to work with the community. We felt that when we first came on, another thing we pushed for was increasing the budget for the communications department in the city, because we felt that not enough information was being pushed out and that there wasn't a way to really have those dialogues. A lot of the misinformation that happens out there is because narrative gets controlled by somebody who either misunderstands or willfully misunderstands and then presents a slanted point of view on things without facts, corroborating facts. So we wanted to fix that. That department has grown, is doing great information now that's available. But people say, well, I still didn't know, I still didn't know. And I'm like, I don't have your email. I can't give you the information. So we urge everybody to go on the city's website, join up to get the information that the city produces. And then if you still think that there's not quick communication, let us know what the problems and issues are. That's our theme throughout, working with the community, working with residents, working with businesses, having open dialogue, being a voice on the council for concerns. Not concerns just without understanding the issue, not just the soundbite, but the facts, the figures, getting the information, really moving it forward. Please look at that literature. What else do we want to say?
Well, there's 3 seats that are open and you can vote for up to 3 people. There's 4 candidates for those 3 seats. You see 3 of the candidates, Kathy and I up for re-election, and Derek for those 3 seats. And the 4th candidate is a relatively unknown person to the community, a newcomer to the community. So we don't have an appreciation yet. So I would ask you all to listen, read. The Red Rock News today has an article about the mayoral candidates. They'll be publishing articles about the council candidates. Read and make up your mind. There's maybe 1 or 2 more forums. There was a big forum on Monday night at the SPAC, Performing Arts Center. Unfortunately, it wasn't very well attended. I think the newspaper said 70 people, and it's hard to know because in a theater that seats 750, it looks pretty empty when you have 100 people there. But they said 70. I thought it was more like 50, but it could have been 70. And a lot of the same faces we see in other forums. So we want to try to reach out more broadly. And so we've held a couple of different events, and we're holding one tonight. Maybe you'll be there, Mick. It's a house party.
And it's capacity. So, but if somebody here, you have an in, if somebody here wants to go, I think we can work something out.
We're, in the near future, we are going to be conducting, as the mayor said, the public outreach for what is going to happen with the 41 acres at the Western Gateway that the city bought a number of years ago. And there's very divergent views in the community as to what we should be doing there. Everything from it should be Central Park to it should be an entertainment venue, it should be a community with community services and housing. And I hope you will all weigh in. It's really important that we hear from everybody's voices. We have loud voices from a minority of people that often make it seem like they're the majority of the people because it don't come out. And although we haven't yet signed a contract with a consulting company who's going to help us to conduct these public outreach meetings, I expect they will be similar to what we did under the community plan, which was to have various forums that were roundtable discussions, presentations, as community survey, an interactive application where different ideas are presented and you can actually go in and comment on those ideas. So please take advantage of that because we need everybody's voices. It's the last remaining large piece of property within the city limits. And there's so many opportunities for its development. I don't think it's one versus the other. So we would really encourage you to participate.
Being in front of friends here means we took for granted that we didn't give you the background or the regular elevator spiel or any of that. So my apologies. We're assuming since we know you that you know us, but just very quickly to cover that for anybody who may be watching or just needs a refresher. So 4 years now on the city council, running for a second term. 3 years prior to that on planning and zoning commission. Here, in the city of Sedona. My background is in government in New York City and state. Ran a New York City agency, worked for the New York State Assembly. I was director of communications for an assembly member. And right before moving here, I did 10 years, it's 5 2-year terms as the elected highway superintendent for the town of Rhinebeck in New York. So I have a background, an almost 30-year background in government that I brought to this, but being up there on the dais and having all the community issues, there was nothing like on-the-job training. Really. So it's good to have that that institutional knowledge now and understand how things work. And I know that I have another good 4 years in me to put that learning to practice. So I am asking for your support. And I think we want to touch on, I'll let you give your background spiel, but then we want to touch on one other thing about the way the election numbering happens.
Yeah, didn't even have to finish the sentence. So I've been on council again for this going into the 4th year. My background is I'm a retired attorney, and I actually started working for the government when I first got out of law school. I was a prosecutor, and I had a specialized caseload in domestic violence, child sexual assault, the worst of the worst. So really crimes against women and children. And I wound up through a circuitous route running a agency. Well, started out with being the staff person to a commission on sentencing practices in the state of Alaska. Met my husband, stayed there, and wound up running the child support enforcement agency for the state, and then leaving the state to work for the private sector. And when I worked for the private sector, all my roles, whether they were local government or state government or federal government or even international, was around making government more in the private sector, but making government more efficient using technology. And so I also spent some of the worst years of my life implementing the Affordable Care Act. And why it was some of the worst years of my life was because of the politics around it at the state and federal level. So it was a big challenge, a challenge on how to bring stakeholders together. I thought that was a challenge, and then I moved to Sedona. I spent 5 years working on through citizen engagement program with my friend Mr. Martinez on the on the budget work group for fiscal sustainability supplements. And then Kathy and I spent a year going to council meetings. So we thought we knew everything, right? She was on planning and zoning. I knew the ins and outs of the budget, how to finance our operations. Spent a year, every council meeting there in person. No.
It's amazing what you learn when you actually assume that the hat, the chair, whatever you want to call it. So yes, the election ballots get mailed out on July 3rd. So you'll start receiving them the 5th, more like the 8th, in your mailboxes. We urge people to return your ballots quickly. We want to make sure that there's counted, that there's no issues or shenanigans out there. But in-person voting will be on the 30th of July at the ballot places. You need to vote in person beforehand. You could do so at a vote center. DORR has all that information on its website. By the way, we're both proud DORR board members.
I was waiting for that.
It's, but there's something unique about this election too. There are 4 candidates for 3 seats, right? That's what's happening in the mayor's race. The one other candidate, Holli and I actually recruited Derek to run. You need to know that. So he's been dragged here. But the mathematically, there's a glitch here, which is if you are of a mind that wants to put a conservative candidate up there, somebody who's more aligned with the people who were behind election 2 years ago, that very divisive mayoral election, those people have put the word out there that they want to get behind one candidate and only exercise one vote from their 3, right? You get 3 votes. right? You vote for 3 candidates. If you only vote for 1 candidate, not only are you elevating that person's number, but you're depressing the number of the other candidates. So they have that single shot strategy to try to help their candidate of choice, conservative candidate, win. We don't want you to just choose 1 candidate. We want you to vote our slate. We want you to make sure you vote for Nikki. We want you to make sure you vote for Scott. We want you to vote for Derek. We want you to vote for us. I'm not leaving you out. I'm just talking. But we want to make sure that in order to offset that, please go out of your way to find that neighbor of yours who may not be inclined to vote. You know, they may be reluctant to go to the polls. They've got a health issue going on. They're not on the early voting list to get it by mail. Do what you can, please, to identify a voter that doesn't always vote in these lower turnout elections and get them to vote. We need those votes. We feel the love in the room. Everybody seems to take it for granted. Oh, you guys got this. You know, everybody knows you, loves you. Wonderful to be loved. We want to get vote. So please do it for Caddy on that level. We'd really appreciate it.
One other thing that's going to be on the ballot in August, I mean, in July, it used to be August, July, is the extension of the Arizona Water Company franchise agreement. What that does is give the Arizona Water Company, which is the water company most of the people in Sedona use for their water, the ability to utilize the rights of way of the city. That's all it is. It's using the rights of way. And it's on the ballot because their agreement has expired and it's a 25-year franchise agreement. If it doesn't get enough votes, water will still flow. It'll just go on the next ballot till it gets enough votes. It's kind of a weird thing. That's how it works. So please vote yes. So that we only have to see it on the ballot.
30 seconds to make a commercial.
Yes, making a commercial.
My commercial is we have to work, as Scott pointed out, with the other government entities. We have not had a very successful working relationship on some levels with the county board of supervisors in our district. We need a change at the district level. So my commercial is no matter what else you do on that ballot, please vote for Nikki Check. End of commercial.
Well, I don't know how I'm gonna follow that. I don't follow that either. Well, different side of Paul. My name is Derek Pfaff. I have been resident of Sedona for 8 years. My wife and 2 children moved here from Houston, Texas. Came here on vacation and loved the city and thought, hey, let's give it a shot. So we moved here. I am an Arizona native, but grew up in Phoenix, went to school in Tucson, spent a couple years in Las Vegas, but I got out. Lived another 15, 16 years in and around Houston, and then, came here on vacation and loved it and decided, hey, let's be closer to my family and be in one of the most beautiful places in the world. So we're here. I'm a real estate attorney. I've been practicing real estate law for 26 years. I'm a partner in a firm in Phoenix, although I work full-time from home. I was doing the work from home thing before COVID came along and made it mandatory. So it was not really a big adjustment. Do that. I had a lot of people calling me and asking me, how do you do it? How do you do it? My best advice was avoid distractions, one of which was people calling and asking, how do you do this? How do you do this? So as I said, we have 2 children. My wife Amanda and I have 2 children. One of them just graduated Sedona Red Rock High School, and we just moved her down to the University of Arizona. She's going to be attending there in fall, studying agriculture. That was stressful and exciting and sad and happy. All these mixed emotions at the same time. Except for my son. My son's just happy she moved out. In fact, he had a friend over week or so ago, and we hear him in a room talking, and they're talking about video games and everything, and he goes, a wonderful thing happened. My sister moved out. Oh, out myself now. So anyway, and he is also now learning to drive.
He has learner's permit, so we've been taking him out and, when my daughter learned to drive, she was very cautious and she's a very cautious driver and signals. And, my son's the typical boy. It's, it's like, don't do that. Anyway, I love Sedona. I love the people. I love scenery. I love the things that we have to do here. Tourism is obviously a big part of our community. It's, the number one driver of the economy. I think all these things we take for granted, restaurants, movie theaters, stores. I mean, all these things we have rely on tourism. And, without tourism, they'd be gone. So, that's one of the things that made the city attractive to my wife and me, is that there's a lot to do here. But at the same token, tourism is, it grinds us down a lot. It is it's a pain. There's no question about it. And I want to see an emphasis on city and, working with businesses and working with residents to try to find some balance there so that we can, reap the benefits of tourism and maybe not have it drive us quite as crazy as it does on some level. As Holli and Kathy mentioned, they recruited me. I'm not sure what I'm getting myself into, but
You're joining good company.
That's that was gonna be my next point is, I've lived here 8 years, which is not a long time. It's longer than
Time is good. Sedona time is good.
Sedona time is good. My opponent's been here for, I think, a year and a half, maybe 2 if you round up 6 months. But in the time I've been here, there hasn't been I haven't seen a lot of progress. There's been a lot of talk about, well, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to, whatever. Within the last couple of years, I've really seen a lot happen. I've seen a lot of changes. I've seen the Forest Road extension. I've seen the Ranger Station Park. We've seen movement at the Western Gateway, former cultural park. There's expansion going on at Posse Grounds Park. We've got right now a council that's really, getting things done. And I want to be part of it. Do I agree with them on everything? No. But I respect them all and I like them and I know that I can work with them, try to keep the forward momentum going and keep things going, on the right path for Sedona. So please elect me. I have yard signs back there behind Mark if anybody wants any, and a little bit of information on there. My website is votepfaff.com. My contact information's on there. If any of you would like to speak afterwards or reach out to me, I'm always available. So thank you.
Go Nikki, go Nikki.
Well, I feel really honored to be, here with a panel of really wonderful candidates. I think everybody sitting behind me really understands how to make government work for the constituency. So I'll just tell you a little bit about me and then a little bit more about the race. So my name is Nikki Check. I'm running to be District 3's next county supervisor with the Board of Supervisors. I was born and raised in Prescott. I spent my high school years in Chino Valley. I studied agriculture and graduated from both Yavapai College with an AAS degree and Prescott College with my bachelor's degree in agroecology. I did an internship, a policy internship. Funny enough, policy wasn't really my true focus, but I did a sustainable agricultural policy internship right out of college and got to go lobby on the 2008 Farm Bill in Washington, D.C. and really see how government can work for people, right out of college. That was in Wisconsin, and the internship was January until June. So I was looking for any reason to come back to my home state, Arizona. And I talked to my best friend. His godmother lived in Jerome and needed help fixing up her old house, which was a stagecoach stop built in 1860. So when I arrived in Jerome, I thought I might be there for a summer, enjoying my friend and fixing up this old house. But I quickly got invited to join forces with the wine industry. I started as a field laborer working for Merkin Vineyards in 2008. The next year, I got invited to teach one of the very first viticulture classes at Yavapai College. Little did I know we were going to go, full force and launch a 2-year degree program, plant a 17-acre winery or vineyard, and turn a racquetball court into a 3,000 case winemaking facility. So I'm really proud to be the founding director of the Southwest Wine Center at Yavapai College. It's really helped a lot of people become entrepreneurs and have their dreams come true, and be successful with the money that it takes to invest in it. It's kind of a high stakes industry. So I'm really proud of my background. In the middle of that, a couple of neighbors knocked on my door and asked me if I'd be willing to fill a vacancy on the Jerome Town Council. And I said no a couple of times before I finally realized that they were asking me for a reason. They saw leadership ability in me, and why not give it a go? So I had a couple of meetings under my belt, and I had to put my paperwork in for the next election. And I said, all right. But in Jerome, you don't run for mayor, you just run for council, and whoever gets the most votes is stuck with it. So I became the mayor of Jerome at 28 years old. So that's now quite a while ago. I'm going to be celebrating my 40th birthday on July 6th. You all are invited to the lower part in the evening, potluck. But I think this is really an important race. Same thing basically happened this time. I got a phone call from Yavapai County Treasurer Chip Davis, and very genuine, sincere conversation asking if I would consider running for this seat. And I knew it was a pivotal moment, and I actually, the words that he said to me became my campaign slogan. He said, "We really need responsible leadership for Yavapai County." And so that's my tagline, is responsible leadership for Yavapai County. But I have to talk a little bit about, the background of why that phone call potentially, came in, and why I have really given everything to run this race and make sure that our leadership changes in this capacity. I think everything that you all talked about really points to the importance of partnership and collaboration. Sedona can only impact the issues up to their municipal boundaries, and that's true for all of our municipalities. So Yavapai County acts as a connector, and it allows our broader vision, our common visions, to be realized. And it also, that collaboration leads to our taxpayer dollars being reinvested here in our district. And I've really seen that as, a main issue. So I think it's not the county that wants to keep our taxpayer dollars from us. It's not the other supervisors. It's really been a lack of leadership and collaboration to identify our priorities and be able to clearly advocate for them so they get funded in the budget. I think that's a real main issue. And it's one of the reasons why I've focused on my list of endorsements in some of the materials that you'll see mailed and in the newspaper. I often will put a list of who's endorsed me. I've a lot of elected officials behind me, both Democrats and I'll get you later. And so it's important for me to talk about this because Donna Michaels is the incumbent, and I think she's really feeling the pressure of this race. And she's put out some negative information that's really just not true. I think, she's sent out a letter that's counted me as, somebody's pet candidate. And while everyone needs encouragement, I am not indebted to any form of policy making for any of the people that have endorsed me. You see, the Democrats of the Red Rocks next to Randy Garrison's name, who, he was Donna's opponent in 2020. He's not the person who recruited me. Even there's a newspaper article out with his face, my face, and Donna's face out there. So it's amazing that she might even point to that idea. So I think it's a good sign, that she's scrambling a little bit, but I have to, be ready to deal with the negativity. Overall, I'm a pretty positive person, focused on problem solving, moving forward, and, not focusing on the negative aspects of things. But I just sort of have to be ready for that. And so I encourage everybody to feel free. If you have a question, if you hear something that doesn't sit well with you, please reach out. Like, I am always trying to answer my telephone. the telephone number on my little postcard, the campaign phone number, but it goes straight to my telephone, my cell phone. So please give me a ring or an email and, you know, let me know where your concerns are, because I'm always happy to talk through the nuances of it. I think right now, the county supervisors have been doing quite a bit as a board. In 2023, they approved a new comprehensive plan that's good for 10 years. And right now, they're looking at revising the zoning ordinance that hasn't been revised for over 50 years. I think it was 1969, so the last time they broad rezoning. So that's important, especially for communities like the village of Oak Creek. They don't have a municipality because they're still resting on the default zoning that was established in 1969. You can imagine how outdated that is, and it creates problems because when things come up for a land use change and are posted and have to go through that public process, it becomes personal, it becomes specific, it becomes subjective. And so I'm really looking forward to working with the county planning department to make sure that that broad rezoning process happens in an equitable way with a forward-thinking vision and help reduce some of that, you know, inflammatory process that occurs when it's not forward-thinking. That's just one of the things I want to accomplish as your next county supervisor. But I also want to give an open invite. I'll be at Vino di Sedona tonight at 5:30, from 5:30 to 7. So if you guys want to come join us for a glass of wine or a little bit of charcuterie, please do. Bring your friends. I'll look forward to any questions you might have of me. Thank you.
You can see why we're so proud of these candidates. It takes a lot to run for political office. It takes a lot of determination and dedication and passion. And everybody that is up here has got that in spades. And so we're really happy to have these people. This is a wonderful opportunity to speak to candidates one-to-one in a room where you don't even need a microphone. We can just have a conversation. So I would like to open up the floor to discussion. Anybody that's on Zoom, Shelley can relay the questions for the people that are on Zoom. Just put those in the chat. I want to acknowledge that we have John Martinez here, who is also running for mayor of Sedona. Thank you for being here. Thank you for running. Thanks to all candidates who run. It's such a difficult job. We had a liberal ladies lunch this week on Wednesday, and Jonathan Nez, who was running for Congressional District 2 candidate for the US Congress, was there. And he spoke to everybody. But then he looked at his watch and he said, well, I have to go back home to Flagstaff now and make phone calls. Fundraising phone calls. This is how our candidates have to spend their time, which is a real shame. Anybody in public office seems to have to do this once they're elected as well. But, you know, we just have to appreciate all that these people are giving up in order to run and make government better serve the people. So thanks to all of you for doing that. Why don't you just have your questions, and Mark?
I am extremely proud to be a DORR board member and to have endorsed all of you. It's just makes it feel really good. This is a general question for all of you. I'm wondering what criticisms you think are valid about the last 2 or 4 years where you have been in office, and what criticisms you think are the least valid or most represented and most misrepresented. Because we see only a little slice of what you have done, and we see a lot of big slice on what the criticisms are. And I would like any of you to address those issues.
I think from my point of view, a lot of misinformation, which is even on a national level, you're seeing, you're also seeing it here. And everybody seems to think, well, you're not listening to the public because you're not doing what I'm doing. But in essence, if you have one topic, whatever that topic is, and you have 10 different people who have different points of view for the same topic, but they're differing. But everybody wants to be listened to. And they're confusing what listening, what acting, and what the betterment of our community. And I think that the people next to me, who does listen to people, all right? But we all here, we're all up to listening. And I mean, really sitting down with people. But the bottom line is it has to betterment, betterment for the entire city. And that's where there's a disconnect, I think, because we get yelled at all the time. Well, you don't listen to us. We do, very, very clearly. It's one of the things that.
Yeah, I would agree. I'll just follow up on that a little bit because I think your question was what criticism is valid. And I think a valid criticism is that we don't control the narrative. When I say we, I'm just saying the information, whoever we is, whether it's group A, group B, it's getting the information out there. In this case, the city, a lot of it is reactive instead of proactive with the information. That's part of what Holli and I tried to address 4 years ago. We're still trying to. There's been great movement forward, but it's a valid criticism to say that some of the information doesn't get out there and then it allows misinformation to foster. So I think that's a valid criticism, something they're aware of. It's a slow journey to try to improve a whole department in terms of getting it more support because the people there are great, but getting them the support that they need in order to have the resources to put the information out there. We would like to do a better job of communicating. We'd like to bring government to people, meet people where they are, right? We had that idea 4 years ago. We wanted to do like community town halls, community-based meetings. There are a couple of things, and again, this is when you actually take the seat and you realize some of the restrictions on you. Opens meeting laws dictates some of the process by which we can do that, but we've been working on trying to do those things. Holli and I held an Ollie class on how the city government works. And we probably will do that again sometime in the next year or two as well. It was fun, but the campaign is up on us and we just haven't had time to do this next term. But there are ways that we have to do a better job of getting out there to the people because you do need to meet people where they are.
I would also say that in terms of misinformation, people, and this is what we tried to do in the Ollie class too, to educate people what, like for example, see a lot of letters to the editor for people who live outside city limits criticizing us for things that occur where they live. We have no jurisdiction. And it is confusing and complicated because of 2 counties and the U.S. Forest Service and all the ADOT, different agencies that we have to work with and who have jurisdiction over different pieces and parts of the community. So trying to have people understand that where we can and can't, where the law. Right now, I'm not going to talk about something that's coming up next week, but I'll talk about it in the context of a different project where people don't want a project. And they're very insistent on that. And maybe we might agree with them, but our hands might be tied because of a regulatory structure, system that we can't control. And it looks as if we're trying to do something that people don't want to have done. And we have zoning that we have to abide by. We have different regulations that are in place and laws that are in place that we just can't usurp. I guess we could, and then we'll get sued. And is that a good use of taxpayer dollars to defend lawsuits that are clearly, business that is illegal? So that is one of the issues, I think. Also, and we don't necessarily get help from the media.
Yes, Maura?
Well, it was sort of along that line. I think I have found it helpful that there's another council member that has occasionally put on Nextdoor like a link to the city website in order to be able to direct the public to find more correct information. And I get the emails from the city and I know where to look, but not everybody does that. And I thought that that was very helpful for, especially for sometimes the misinformation that's out there. There are people who get misinformation and who do browse next door. So I'm just bringing that up. Would that be another potential way of sharing information that can at times be appropriate, if that just reminding people about the city website or putting links on next door without crossing any inappropriate boundaries?
Can I speak to that? It's interesting because social media, it's real, it's here, it is a way that people communicate. But is it the right way for us to be communicating? Because I know for me, if I say, oh, the sky is blue today, put that on next door neighbor, which is particularly vitriolic. I'm a target for people, that there are people out there who just are on the other side of things politically, or they just don't like government at all. Even when they agree, they still like the idea of it. We who are in office actually post something. Just by virtue of a benign statement, it already gets politicized because we know that there are people out there who want to attack anything I say.
That's why
So I have opted personally to stay off of Nextdoor. I will once in a while, if I see something, post a link to correct information without any editorial comment from myself, because it only further inflames things.
Right.
So it's a choice I've made. Is it the right choice? I don't know. Again, I'm trying to keep the dialogue from inflaming further, and that's my reason for not getting to a lot of commentary on Nextdoor. I recognize that it's a tool. I don't think it's the best tool. And I know who you're talking about, and she's done an amazing job.
Right, so again,
And she adds a little bit of luxury. Jessica Williams, it's not running again. She's in a good position to actually put out there what she wants, not because it's about votes, but it's about, he's less of a target. It doesn't inflame things immediately because he's not going to be holding the purse strings over the next 4 years. So
yeah,
We do have a Facebook page that we kept from our last campaign, and we post everything on that the city is doing. But people tell us that a lot of people tell us that social media is not something that they use. We have an older population here, and people don't use email. They find it difficult to, even though I think we've improved our website dramatically, find it difficult to find information. So the age of technology in the 21st century is not something that's embraced by all of our residents for a number of reasons. And so that to me is the population that gets the least amount of information, because we push everything out electronically. And so when we interviewed the new city manager, who's just been in place for a couple of months, one of the things that we asked was her feeling about town halls and how she would communicate with the public. And based on her experience, both as a city manager in another jurisdiction and elected official herself, she was a tax assessor, which is elected in Oregon. She's very comfortable in those types of venues. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to have more town hall-like meetings where people can actually come and we're one-to-one with, not literally one-to-one, but where we can dial up as opposed to using technology as the only vehicle.
I might suggest if it's possible, a lot of people use the library and might find it a little bit less intimidating than going to the Performing Arts Center in terms of, again, the smaller numbers, a little bit of ease in terms of a room.
Or right here.
Or here.
Right here, that's a good place too.
Which is the smaller, a little bit more comfortable for smaller groups. And for parking and for people knowing where it is and access to driving, before 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night, go to bed.
I respond especially to Mark's initial question because I think it is important to note, we have a Democratic candidate in the seat of county supervisor right now. And so there is a question of what went wrong? Why do we want another person in that seat? And I think the thing that initially was flagged by many, many people was that they were unable to get a meeting with Donna Michaels. They were unable to get her attention. She was very selective of who she called back or who she actually made a meeting with. I actually experienced that myself. And And so I mean, there's just like a really long list of people who really, had the status and were policymakers, or, influential people that it didn't make sense that they weren't able to get a timely response from their supervisor, including, I know Councilman Pete Furman was on that list, longtime Verde Valley resident and former county supervisor candidate Ray Selna couldn't get a meeting with her, a former public works director of Cottonwood. I mean, so there was a sincere amount of avoidance, and I think that's important to point out that when I say we need a supervisor who's going to show up, that's what I'm referencing. That's what I mean.
I'd just like to add to something that Nikki just said, in people being able to contact current supervisor. It's interesting to look, if you look at the list of endorsements for Nikki, and you see that of the 4 cities and towns in Nikki's district, there's a representative, either the mayor or the vice mayor, that are endorsing Nikki. It's not just the people up here. It's not just Chip Davis, who I think is a fabulous person. But look at policymakers that have endorsed Nikki. There's a reason for that. We've all had a problem. The current supervisor, she communicates with me. I think I'm the only one here that she does communicate with, not anymore. For whatever reason, she doesn't want to communicate with me now. That's okay. But it was always I should sit back and listen to her. It was never a give and take. And the other mayors felt the same way. And we, for those that don't know, the mayors meet basically every other week in Verde Valley, including Camp Verde, which is not in the we all have felt the need that we need better representation. We have all decided Check is that person. So we need good representation, someone who will listen. And that's what we all think about. Like I said before, relationships. And we have a relationship with Nikki, and nobody has a relationship. Let your cattle rancher.
Thank you, Scott.
Nick has a
Question.
Nick.
Yeah, Holly brought up sort of politically being blamed for things that you have no power over, like a person living out of the jurisdiction. I think some of the same issues are around short-term rentals. And yeah, 2 questions. Is there any hope of legislative change or full preemption of that area by the state coming up? And then also, how are you dealing with that politically?
Okay.
Less than that.
Yeah, so there's a president of the Senate, Warren Peterson, and the Speaker of the House, Ben Toma, have stated publicly they have no intention of allowing any of the bills that are introduced, and I'll talk about some of those, to have a hearing in a committee while they are in their positions. So until
On short-term rentals?
on short-term notes, until they are replaced by a different mindset, no matter how many bills are introduced in this session, 11 bills were introduced in the House and the Senate, short-term rentals, several of them from our representatives who have been very good in introducing the bills, but not so good in getting them heard in a committee. So not one of those 11 bills, even though some of them were assigned to committees, were heard by that committee, which means they're dead on arrival. And it wouldn't surprise you to know that both of them have financial interests in the real estate industry.
Shocking. No, right.
So while we have a much better working relationship with our elected officials who represent this district, have been willing to prioritize short-term rental legislation that would give back local control to our area, meaning that we could regulate as applies to us. They're just not getting heard. And there was a citizen group that formed out of frustration who thought perhaps that they would have more of an influence, including people who were active in the Republican Party, because we still have Republican majorities in both the House and the Senate. They couldn't move anything either. So it's really disheartening. And what we advocate for is a cap. We want a cap on the number of short-term rentals in our community. Currently, 17% of our housing stock has been converted to short-term rentals. That's within the city limits. And in our immediate area, it's not much.
I can just add a little bit topically to that, because when I was mayor of Jerome, it was a main issue that we dealt with. We narrowly passed an ordinance which got referred. It was just like never ending source of inflammation. But the reason why it got referred is because it didn't put people out of business. Because it, respected private property rights. But I think it's a really difficult issue to walk legally. But I think that there was a little piece of nougat that still exists in that ordinance that got referred, which was regulating short-term rentals on a density basis, so that our neighborhoods, the complete neighborhoods don't get taken over. And we treated it, basically, we didn't put anybody out of business. We broke our town into neighborhoods, and we said there's one allowed per neighborhood. I mean, we only had 124 homes, so you can imagine the need or the impetus to regulate them. And so the ordinance would have added 3 new vacation rentals in total to the town. And then it would have been treated like a taxi coin after that. If one neighborhood's vacation rental went out of business, that opportunity would become available to somebody else in that neighborhood. So it's an equitable way of doing it. And I just hope that the 2 years we spent working on it, maybe in the future, could be reused or implemented. Because I think it is right that municipalities, have some levers on dealing with it. It creates health and safety issues. It creates neighborhood issues, and it is correct for municipalities to have some oversight.
What Nikki just pointed out too is comes back to the bigger issue of local control. You got the state telling Jerome, in that case, Sedona in this case, if you can't regulate, you can't do what's best for your neighborhood, you who knows it, you who deals directly with the constituents, the residents, the businesses. This council has consistently taken position against bills that would dismantle local control on short-term rentals, but in every other area. We've been consistent with that because it's a slippery slope. So we really always try to, if you watch council meetings, you'll see at the end, and now that'll go off the agenda since the state is adjourned for the year. But we look at legislation, all legislation on different levels. This has been a very active council in being advocates on issues at the state level. These guys have gone down to Phoenix so many times. We hired a state legislative advocate, lobbyist, right, on the issues that we care about. So a lot is at the state level, but we do what we can at the local level with the state, or the state against the state, to try to do things in the best interest of Sedona.
I'll add one additional thing. Over the last several years that this bill's been in effect, since 2016, there have been some small little changes that the legislature has agreed to. And Sedona has implemented every single one of them as soon as we possibly could after legislation became effective. They also can be implemented by counties, and Coconino County has an ordinance. Yavapai County does not.
Well, I think every other county in the state, from what I understand, does, except Yavapai County. And the Village of Oak Creek, which seems to be the current current supervisor's home, what is her home committee, they just lost a lawsuit that will now allow the vote to be taken over by short-term rentals. And where is your county supervisor? Nothing. We during a Zoom meeting that we hold every other week, I asked the county manager what they're doing, and he says nothing. So, but yet every other county, including Coconino, do whatever they can, whatever they're allowed to by the state. Yavapai County has done nothing. Now, the supervisor, yet again, is mum on walk.
Following on that, Nikki, I understand that you'll be listening to a lot more people if you're elected. What can you actually do in Yavapai County, given the composition of Yavapai County and the preponderance of influence in?
That's a great question. I think, you know, if you don't know, broadly, Yavapai County is Republican, votes Republican. District 3 is the one district out of the 5 at the county level that has the capacity to elect a Democrat. Donna Michaels won her election narrowly by 179 votes. And so, but at the same time, the policies that are dealt with at the county level many times are nonpartisan. I think there's exceptions to that, especially as you look at rezoning and how do you advocate for attainable or affordable housing within zoning. So certainly there will be differences of opinion at that level. I think the first step in being an effective supervisor that way is being able to engage civilly and respectfully and genuinely listen to understand others' perspectives. I think that because the county level has not been infiltrated by deeply inflammatory politics at this point, like other municipalities like Cottonwood and Prescott, you still have good, open-minded people in those seats for the most part. And so I think there are a lot of opportunities to find common ground and to do what's best for the broad constituency. I don't see county supervisors being deeply entrenched in partisan politics right now. And so I don't think that, and it was a question I asked up front and initially, you know, like, do you think that my being a Democrat is going to negatively impact our sphere of influence? And the answer I got repeatedly was no. As, you know, you work well with others. And when I was mayor of Jerome, that was a nonpartisan race. And I never once remember getting asked if I was a Democrat or Republican. I think it's one of the most beautiful things about District 3 is that we're an assembly of small communities that are used to working with people who have different perspectives towards common goals, because we have to put our resources together in order to move down the road. And that's the approach that I plan to take. But it's also true that, you know, culturally, I'm from here. I describe myself as a conservative Democrat. And I think it was Jessica Williamson looked at me and she's like, maybe you're a conservative Democrat because you grew up here. You're culturally like, this is my culture. You know, I'm a progressive, but I also, you know, understand what people love about our rural history and, you know, the way that our communities came into being. And so I think culturally there's not a big discord, and I'll just have to cross the bridge when I get there if there's a problem, but I don't foresee any.
Shelley, are there any questions on Zoom?
No, there are not. So if anybody's on Zoom and you have a question, please put it in the chat.
Okay. Bob?
I think all these questions can just be answered by giving me this site to go to get the information. So my wife and I are concerned about water resources down the road in Sedona. What's the water status look like? And at the county level too. And that's just going to be true throughout Arizona, I think, in the future.
Yeah. Well, so water is one of the issues that I've invested my time in over the years. I was on the Verde River Basin Partnership Board before it got folded into the Friends of the Verde River. As mayor, I was on the I was the member for the Water Advisory Committee, which was an intergovernmental entity facilitated by the county that ceases to exist at this moment. That's one of the important things I want to do as that regional supervisor, is bring back that facilitation effort to get our municipal voices back in the room when it comes to making regional water policy. Because at this point, it seems like the people in Phoenix are really the strongest voices there. think, we were running into problems with that committee, not moving forward, but there wasn't this impetus to actually get along at that point because governor wasn't being very proactive about water, and the Department of Water Resources wasn't eyeing the Verde Valley, but that has changed. Our governor is being really proactive about water. And the Department of Water Resources is really looking at what to do about the Verde Valley. Phoenix is more concerned about their water resources. And if we don't have our voices collectively heard, we won't be making the policies that impact our lives.
Where do we stand in Sedona? We're tied to the county.
No, well, we don't own water here. Some communities own their water. We do. So we have 2 water companies that service the community, most of which is through Arizona Water, but a smaller is through Gulf Creek Water. And we've been meeting regularly with Arizona Water. In fact, we just had a meeting
2 days.
2 days ago with the regional director, district director, and an engineer from their central location, talking about some new projects in Uptown that are going to have positive impact on the issues we talked about before with the potential for fires and other hazards. They have a 5-year plan, and there was from 2018 to 2023. So we're reviewing where they are based on that plan, and a new plan, dated plan, will be released shortly. One of the things that this council did was to keep our gray water. So we have a wastewater plant out a couple of miles south of the city limits, and we have that water is in a pond. The water that we spray on the 200 acres that are across, that's known as the Dells, that you've all been hearing a lot about. We spray our effluent, treated effluent, and it goes into a pond where it's retained, and it's called gray water because it's not potable, but it's like 1 degree lower than potable. It's being tested to see whether or not it can be sent into the Verde River right now. And they're doing actually it's a Federal Bureau of Reclamation. It's doing some testing right now, along with the Yavapai Apache Nation. So we're looking at ways in which we can be more in control and keep that water. It had the potential to be sent off to be sold out. This council decided that was not responsible for us because the water situation is so right now unsettled that we wanted to keep that water. And in the event that we have water issues in the future, we will have them. And we will be able to either put it back into the aquifer that will support the Verde River, or we will be able to use it for drinking if we are able to get it to a potable level, or other uses.
But right now, there's no concern about water availability.
No,
Not
not right now.
other areas there are, but we're not on the Colorado River water system that you keep hearing about. We're on the Salt River water system, discharge, well, whatever the watershed area. Thank you. So some of what you see in the headlines about Colorado River does not apply to us directly. It doesn't mean we shouldn't be concerned. We need to protect water. We need to make sure that we can do our part in recharging underground water and water systems. So it's a big issue. Holly and I went last year, and we were blown away by how much information there was, that some of which we knew this much about, and there was this much to know. And I think we've got another one coming up this year that's going to touch on that too. So we try to educate ourselves on this from a municipal standpoint about how to be responsible and how to hold the greater situation of the area as well. So thank you for bringing that up.
I think all these questions can be answered on sites. Bypass road information, I haven't heard much about that. So where is that available? Read about
It's all brand new. There is no information out there yet. We just, last council meeting, we just started to start the discussion with NACOG and counties. It's just beginning, but it's something that could take us 10 years more to get like road, because who wants to have that? Not in my neighborhood. It's gonna be in somebody's neighborhood, or it might be in the VOC. We don't know. But it's in the door for discussion.
One of the things that we pushed for was, and this started having had conversations with the city manager and the deputy city manager about, we need to stop looking at this as one proposal comes up at a time, you know, for the low water crossing, or somebody who had the proposition to do one around the airport. And we need to be looking at all the potential sites to see what is realistic, what is not realistic. So as Scott said, we just gave direction to staff to start having the conversation, all the multi-government levels, so that we could find ways to work together about what's realistic, what would not be realistic, who would put resources into looking at this site, that site, how can we work together? It's the dialogue has actually, although the issue has been very much out there just as a, you know, bullet point issue, the dialogue's been dead on for years now. And it's time to get that dialogue re-going, where we need to support the county as well. We need a voice at the county in order to work together to explore all the different sites to identify something that could maybe be realistic.
Just to tag on that. While Randy Garrison was a supervisor, there was a discussion about something down at the end of Verde Valley School Road. That discussion went to the public, and it was, again, not my neighborhood, but it died with current supervision. Whether the new county supervisor will open that up, that's up to her. Whatever happens, it's nothing to do with us, except when we work through NACO. But the fact is that died because that had something to do with the VOC.
I will say that the Red Rock News over the past several years has had editorials about what they view as options. So you could go on their website, probably see if you're interested in their thinking. Also in the transportation master plan that the city did, was in
SIM 13 is the code word.
Sedona in motion, number 13.
And then the transportation master plan, they looked at various crossing potentials. At that point, there was a lot of low-hanging fruit that would be advised to be done before looking at the bypass, because a bypass would take a longer period of time, be more expensive, involve many more stakeholders and things like that. So the SIM program was designed to capture the things that could be done. The city, for the most part, had jurisdiction over, maybe just had to work with ADOT a little bit. And the bypass was left for the future.
It's either SIM 13 or SIM 11. Now I'm not sure.
13.
Is it? We sure it's 13?
Yeah.
Okay. But you could just put that on there and it'll come right up.
I have a question from Zoom.
All right.
Okay, is there a plan to increase the shuttle service for more trail sites?
There's not going to be more trail sites because that's really sponsored by the Forest Service. It's our position to provide to those sites at the forest, if I understand the correction. Right. But we don't have as many buses. We're now focusing on the micro transit, which will go to individuals, people's home. That would take people, residents, whatever trail they want, drop them off and then pick them up for a fee. But it won't go below Coco Diablo as of now. Does that answer your question?
I hope so.
I also just personally would love to see shuttle service in between VOC and Sedona, because that is the crunchiest piece of traffic.
Well, you said that because the reason you don't see a transportation system between the VOC and the city is because the Yavapai County doesn't want to kick in any money. Right now, we have a system between Cottonwood and Sedona because Cottonwood and Sedona funded. We can't bring something to Yavapai County, which is what the VOC is, okay, without them kicking in money. And something else that Schreier County Supervisor, Schreier County Supervisor, I haven't touched on. when Randy Garrison was supervisor, he was looking, and this has to be statewide, it can't be just one county. A lodging tax, similar to what we have in Sedona, but a lodging tax approval statewide, which would go to the individual counties for transportation infrastructure in each respective county. And that's something that Randy was looking for. Because it would be great to shuttle not just to the VOC, but to Cornville, Clarkdale, Yavapai Nation. There's a lot of employees.
Want to go to Flagstaff to see him?
Yeah, but the fact is, there's a, we have a lot of problems in our businesses, the hotel not having enough employees. There's a lot of people at the Yavapai Nation that don't have cars. We don't have a way of getting them to Sedona. That would be a great way to us an influx of employees, but we can't do it right now because there's been nothing pushed forward by the county supervisor. Exactly.
Public transportation is really important.
It's very important, but it should be needs to be statewide.
Ammon has been sitting there very patiently.
You know a lot. Like, Sedona's fine. It's good.
I just wanted to ask, when we, the DORR board, made the decision to endorse you over your opponent, a lot of it had to do with your experience in the prosecutor's office. Can you speak to that for people? I just want to mention as well that we've got a small crowd here that appears mostly to be from Yavapai County. However, these programs put on the DORR YouTube channel. Anybody is free to come and watch them at that time. So we do have Coconino County viewers, and we have quite a few Coconino County residents. Yay, that are here. So tell us the difference in the actual day-to-day experience that you and your opponents have.
Well, I mentioned I'm the chief deputy county attorney, and what that means really is I oversee the entire operation of the county attorney's office, which is approximately 22 attorneys and 30 some staff members, so legal assistants, professionals. I've been doing that for the last 2.5 years, and that is not to take anything away from the elected, but it's the hardest job because it is really overseeing all that actual operation, the personnel issues, the policy execution. But before that, I was prosecuting cases and overseeing the felony prosecution in our office. And it's one thing to say that you want to see changes, and it's another thing to actually implement them. And so I've actually executed on some of the things we promised, like the diversion program I mentioned about a year ago. My opponent's been a long time defense attorney. I think he's doing plaintiff's work now. He's never prosecuted a case. He's never worked in our office. And that matters in terms of buy-in you can get from your community partners, right? I mentioned the courts, the defense, local defense volume, probation department, juvenile services. They know who I am. They know that I've been in the trenches, and they know and respect my vision for what we can do in the future. So I think that absolutely matters. Experience definitely matters when you're running this type of office. And I should also say that my entire leadership supports me. If I think that's a good sign. I think it's a good sign that I'm doing the right thing. The office is supporting me, and they're going out there with the signs, and they're campaigning for me on their own, which is a beautiful thing. And it just shows that I think we're moving in the right direction as an office. So that's the big distinction I can make. We've heard a lot about collaboration. None of us can do what we do without community partners. So it's important that I emphasize that as well. Thanks, Ellen.
Can I add something to that? So this is the strangeness of being in 2 counties. Our court system was located at City Hall. Then they moved to the former school administration building on Brewer Road. They changed counties. What happened when they changed counties? Our magistrate judge, who reported to Yavapai County Superior Court, now reports to Coconino County Superior Court. So actually, it is important to us, whether we live in Yavapai County or Coconino County, who the elected state county attorney is, because our court administration is now aligned with Coconino County. And so really, well, months ago, they came down and met with us as council. And we got introduced to the Superior Court.
New presenting judge.
Yeah,
Yeah, Ted Reed.
exactly, judge and started working together now with Coconino County. Wow.
Yeah, and we have a coordinating council in Coconino County, CJCC. I chair a committee on that council, and we do have a great coordinating council. Our court system in Coconino County really is aligned, I think, in the vision and what we can do together. So it's good to hear that happened recently with Judge Reed. He's a good leader.
And we had some internal issues, and they really helped us to resolve it and actually use their own resources.
Very
to
quickly
help.
on my end. The response was really quick. Not saying anything about Yavapai, but I'm just saying that the response of Coconino was very unique and it was appreciated because it helped solve the problem.
What's the Forest Road extension? I'm just naive about that.
Forest Road extension, Forest Road is up in Uptown. That's where the fire station is. Okay, it's right behind the Hyatt Hotel. Now road is coming down to 89A.
behind the post office.
Okay.
So it'll be a bypass. It'll be a way to get from West Sedona to Uptown, bypassing the Y and the trucks.
Right. We were wondering what that construction. Any chance, this is crazy, why not pave Schnebley Hill Road? Take the pressure off.
Well, the thing is, first of all, it's not in the city limits. There's a small portion. The
Actually, that portion is paved.
And I get it. I would like to see some relief of traffic. But do we really want to see another paved road that would have to go up east, up through the mountainside with 17, or continue it as it is now, to Flagstaff or to 17? I mean, there's two ways of thinking about it. It's a way to relieve the traffic, and we're going to have more traffic, and it's something that we're going to look at in the future. But do we really want to see more roads like that? That's going to be just, across the mountainside? Well, no, it's something we should all look at. We will all look at.
Yeah, that's something I personally want to look at. I realize, that issues like that can come up with obstacles easily, and I'm sure, we'll find some in exploring that. But I do think it's a valuable exploration because, right now Sedona is the tourist destination that people are trying to get to, and they have to either go through VOC or Cottonwood or Flagstaff, to get there. And so having a more direct access route could be beneficial.
But when you think about it, where does it terminate or start? At the Schnebley Hill roundabout circle, which aside from the Y, that circle is the epicenter for back. So you're going to, what are you really going to accomplish? Because they're still coming to that traffic circle. Right? So the idea is we want to get people away from that Y Schnebley Hill circle area.
But I understand also the concern because we are looking for alternate ways
Right.
because of emergency evacuation. Having a more transversable route there is something that's one of the eyes you want to look at that with, about how would that help in emergency services. So there's a lot to be said, but again, it's partners. It's City of Sedona is this much, county, and then you've got US Forest Service. I mean, there are multiple entities, and there hasn't been a collaboration that's come to any consensus about how to treat that road. It's been kept as it is. There's a lot of dollars involved, the Forest Service end of it too, which is discouraging to having that conversation at a different level, but it comes up every now and again. It deserves another look. The bypass that we were referencing, or at least I was referencing before, though, would be something again to connect the VLC area and the Chapel area to West Sedona, the south end, the west end, to go around. But all of this needs to be looked at because the area around us, the Verde Valley, Toppingwood, Camp Verde, they are growing in leaps and bounds. Phoenix is growing in leaps and bounds. People are coming here. Phoenix is now the 5th largest city in the US. We need to make sure people are gonna come here and visit here. We need to have the safest community we have, so I'm always looking at things with that lens. So thank you for bringing that question up.
The analysis for Schnebly Hill Road is contained in that transportation master plan. You go on the city's website, it is there, you can read. And again, it was 5 or 6 years ago, so the costs would be for them not
25%
now,
more.
but the analysis, I think, is still pretty valid.
Did you know you were gonna get homework?
That's what I need.
Homework.
Yeah,
Great.
thank you.
Any other questions? Anything else?
On the lighter side, I just wondered, when is the Red Rock International Pickleball Tournament to be held?
8 new courts coming, and we could still use the current are the tennis courts. They're gonna revert back to tennis courts, but we could use those for a tournament. I think that would be a great idea.
And we're gonna have a double over it, and bandstands and all.
Well, advanced, we're gonna have seating, and we're gonna have appropriate lighting that you're not going, all the tall lighting that you see now at the base, it's all going away. So it's gonna bring it down. It's going to be on a timer. So it's all gonna be really sharp.
These stadium seats for viewing will be shaded.
And what will the tickets cost?
See me, I
If
know
you're
about,
organizing, you've got an input.
I know about that.
The guy had just did their pickleball courts, and so I think you guys have some good competition picking up in the VS.
Great, but how about Jerome? Let me run around.
Well, I want to thank our panel so much for being here today. This was great. It was wonderful. You were very open and transparent and very, very smart and impressive. Every single person that's sitting up here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. I want to tell you that the Arizona petition drive to put abortion on the ballot so that it can be enshrined in the Arizona state constitution is coming to an end. If you have not signed the petition, it's right back there in the corner. Please do. The petition just simply helps put it on the ballot in November. This has been an amazing drive. We're probably going to end up with close to 800,000 signatures, which is amazing. There's no doubt that this thing will appear on our ballots in November. And those ballots are reputed to be very, they may be 2 to 3 pages based on the initiatives that are on there that the state legislature have added. So we'll look for a long ballot in November. In the meantime, the July 30th primary ballots are mailed July 3rd. Everybody up here was facing some kind of a challenge in that this is a critical time for them. I mean, it's a make or break for many of the people that are here today. We talked about messaging earlier. How do we get the message out? DORR is doing everything we can to get the message out. We need individuals like you. You are ambassadors. We are all ambassadors for people that have the same kind of values that we have, the people who are candidates that we want to promote. We have to be the ambassadors. So have the difficult conversation with your neighbor, put up a lawn sign, put a magnetic thing on your car, whatever you can do. You are participating in the democratic process, and it is so critical that we elect people with our same values. Anybody who says, I'm not going to vote because I don't like Biden or Trump, well, okay, that's fine. Then skip that. I'm not saying do, because clearly that's a mistake. But if you meet people like that, tell them, well, what about the US Senate? Do you care who has control of the Senate? Do you care who has control of the House? Do you care who has control of your local city government, your county? These things are all on the ballot too. So people who stick their nose up in the air and say, I'm not voting because I don't like Trump or Biden, we have an answer. They have to still show up and vote. That's the process. Now, while we have a democracy, and we have to fight to hang on to that democracy, elect people like this. So I appreciate everybody coming today. Barbara has a question.
Well, because of what you offered concerning the attorney for Coconino, those of us that live in Yavapai, how's that gonna work? Because it's a court system for municipal, no, but I mean, on the voting.
You won't
Oh.
go, you won't go, Ammon.
Yeah, you won't get a ballot.
Person gets a ballot that's unique to them at their address. And you, what races apply to you?
Okay.
You won't have that opportunity,
Even though,
but you'll have this opportunity.
Right,
If you live in Coconino,
you won't have
the town behind you can't vote for Nikki.
yeah,
Right, and DORR is going to make this as simple as possible by providing those slate cards for whether you live in Yavapai or Coconino. You'll see just who you should vote for. So the ballot won't be too long in July. And hopefully if you get your ballot by mail, send it in ASAP. Do not delay, do not dawdle. If you have questions, ask. As I said, our ad's going to be in the paper. It will include, and so it will also include people like Sarah Benatar, who is running for Coconino County Treasurer and County Recorder, Aubrey Sonnenberger, people like that, that only Coconino County can vote for. They're not here today. Some of them have already been here with us, but they do not have primary challengers. So the primary is not as critical for them as it will be for the people that are here today. He's got an opponent that, everybody here at primary July 30th will be the important.
Just,
Yeah.
so county, District 3 for Yavapai County is the same as Yavapai College's governing board, District 3. And a lot of people conflate those issues because they're at the county level and they're in the same district. There is a governing board specific to Yavapai College, and we have the same or similar issues, maybe even worse at the college level than we do at the P level. And so I'm going to run out to my car and get a petition that I have for Toby Payne, who is our current District 3 governing board member. He didn't want to run initially. Person who was interested in running in his stead came up with a health issue. And so he is stepping back in, and I want to make sure that he gets on the ballot in November because he's been, especially recently, very pointed in asking difficult questions of the college to hold them accountable. So I'm supporting Toby Payne for governing board for Yavapai College. I think I have about 9 more signature spots, and I have to give it to him this afternoon if anybody wants to sign. Disappear quick and I'll be right back.
All right, cool. Well, thank you all for coming today. Again, this is be on the DORR's YouTube channel. These breakfasts are held the 3rd Friday of every month. So please feel welcome. And if you can't make it, they're hybrid so that you can zoom in and see what's going on. So thanks to Jeff for the who selects our money because we do have to pay for this room. So thank you for your donations. And Shelley Haken, who's manning the Zoom call from her house in Cottonwood. All right, and we'll see you hopefully.
Say the candidates' names again, especially
Yes,
down here, so
okay.
that they're
Ammon Barker, County Attorney, Coconino County, Derek Pfaff, Sedona City Council, Kathy Kinsella, Sedona City Council, Scott Jablow, Sedona City Council /mayor.
Nikki Check.
Nikki Check, Supervisor District 3, Yavapai County, Vice Mayor Holli Ploog, Sedona City Council.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you very much.